So, for instance, if Tony... And there the photocopy, this version of a version, stopped. So, for instance, if Tony... End of the line, bottom of the page. If I hadn't immediately recognized Adrian's handwriting, I might have thought this cliffhanger a part of some elaborate fakery concocted by Veronica. But I didn't want to think about her, not for as long as it was possible to avoid doing so. Instead, I tried to concentrate on Adrian and what he was doing. I don't know how best to put this, but as I looked at that photocopied page, I didn't feel as if I was examining some historical document, one moreover requiring considerable exegesis. No, I felt as if Adrian was present in the room again, beside me, breathing, thinking. And how admirable he remained. I have at times tried to imagine the despair which leads to suicide, attempted to conjure up the slough and slop of darkness in which only death appears as a pinprick of light. In other words, the exact opposite of the normal condition of life. But in this document, which I took on the basis of this one page, to consist of Adrian's rational arguing towards his own suicide, the writer was using light in an attempt to reach greater light. Does that make sense? I'm sure psychologists have somewhere made a graph of intelligence measured against age. Not a graph of wisdom, pragmatism, organizational skill, tactical nous, those things which over time blur our understanding of the matter, but a graph of pure intelligence. And my guess is that it would show we most of us peak between the ages of 16 and 25. Adrian's fragment brought me back to how he was at that age. When we had talked and argued, it was as if setting thoughts in order was what he had been designed to do, as if using his brain was as natural as an athlete using his muscles. And just as athletes often react to victory with a curious mixture of pride, disbelief, and modesty, I did this. Yet how did I do this? By myself, thanks to others, or did God do it for me? So Adrian would take you along on the journey of his thought, as if he himself didn't quite believe the ease with which he was travelling. He had entered some state of grace, but one that did not exclude. He made you feel you were his co-thinker, even if you said nothing. And it was very strange for me to feel this again, this companionship with one now dead, but still more intelligent, for all my extra decades of life. Not just pure, but also applied intelligence. I found myself comparing my life against Adrian's. The ability to see and examine himself. The ability to make moral decisions and act on them. The mental and physical courage of his suicide. He took his own life is the phrase, but Adrian also took charge of his own life, took command of it. He took it in his hands, and then out of them. How few of us, we that remain, can say that we have done the same. We muddle along, we let life happen to us, we gradually build up a store of memories. There is the question of accumulation, but not in the sense that Adrian meant, just the simple adding up and adding on of life. And as the poet pointed out, there is a difference between addition and increase. Had my life increased or merely added to itself? This was the question Adrian's fragment set off in me. There had been addition and subtraction in my life, but how much multiplication? And this gave me a sense of unease, of unrest. So, for instance, if Tony. These words had a local, textual meaning, specific to 40 years ago, and I might at some point discover that they contained, or led to, a rebuke, a criticism from my old, clear-seeing, self-seeing friend. But for the moment I heard them with a wider reference, to the whole of my life. So, for instance, if Tony. And in this register the words were practically complete in themselves, and didn't need an explanatory main clause to follow. Yes, indeed, if Tony had seen more clearly, acted more decisively, held to truer moral values, settled less easily for a passive peaceableness, which he first called happiness and later contentment. If Tony hadn't been fearful, hadn't counted on the approval of others for his own self-approval, and so on through a succession of hypotheticals, leading to the final one. So, for instance, if Tony hadn't been Tony.